There is a game called Schoolgirl Supervisor Saori Sato, a mystery game built by a solo developer named Peter Karusik, popularly known as Noway, who's most likely based in Germany and might be a closeted Nazi, with a deep love for women's menstrual cycle, considering how it's a huge part of his game. Over the course of more than a decade, Noway used different identities in order to cover his tracks of depravity, because beneath the surface of his colorful game rated for 13-year-olds, one that pulled in over 1 million downloads, from a young, largely unsupervised audience between 2015 and 2022, Noway had built something that had no business being on a child's phone. There were characters displaying bondage kinks, and lots of head-uprooting rituals with suggestive sound designs. There are costume assets that he approved in his multiplayer game that bear a striking resemblance to the logo of the 3Ks, a very extreme, very violent group, and that is just what was inside the games themselves. Outside of them, Noway proudly uploaded clips of underage schoolgirls that he filmed without their consent while on vacation in Japan. And there are many other tales about his degenerate behavior. Noway was not famous enough for anyone to look into his case, and the obscurity protected him for a long time. But the truth is out now, and what follows will leave you baffled at every turn. Who exactly is Noway? How many games did he make? Which ones crossed the line? And by how much? Keep watching as we learn about one of the internet's most degenerate game developers. Noway's story of depravity begins with his game, Schoolgirl Supervisor Saori Sato, which was later rebranded into Schoolgirl Supervisor Wildlife. Its premise is an all-girls school called Sayama High School, and it follows a young girl named Saori Sato, who had just begun working as the school supervisor. Her job is practically like Ayuzawa Misaki's from the anime made Sama, a student president who oversees the affairs of her peers through a no-nonsense manner. Just like Misaki in the anime, Saori is also responsible for keeping the order in the school and protecting students from bullying, but she's not your average supervisor. Right from the start of her shift, Saori is handed a specific toolkit: handcuffs, handcuff keys, a roll of duct tape, a supervisor's handbook, a flashlight, and an optional blindfold. All these items aren't things a school student would need on a normal day, but in Noway's game, they serve weird purposes that would become very important as the game progresses. As Saori's shift continues, strange things happen. A locked room contains a girl named Akane Maki who is chained up wearing only a swimsuit. Akane is an important character at this juncture. She had been the previous supervisor, was a member of the school's photography club, and was also the leader of the swimming club, but nothing explains why she was tied up in chains in school. Regardless of what makes sense, Saori frees her, but this is where things get messy. Akane tricks her into a trust game, and suddenly Saori is the one locked in a room and tied up. Later on, Saori's friend and the school's Miss Popular girl, Midori Lin, finds her and releases her. They leave the scene together only to discover Akane Maki's decapitated body in a classroom. That is a genuinely compelling setup for a free mobile horror game. For the thousands of players who discovered it between the ages of 9 and 14, it was unlike anything else available at no cost on their phones. It felt eerie and specific. This was meant to be a school environment, yet beneath the facility sits a massive facility that functions as a hidden prison. Cells, isolation chambers, cages for containing students, surveillance rooms with one-way glass, a shower complex, and what the game labels an interrogation room are all part of the basement layout. Akane Maki's diary entries, which form a major piece of the game's backstory, explain exactly what this facility is used for. In one entry, she spoke about how she tried to punish a bullier by rejecting her apology and locking her up in handcuffs. I rejected her apology and locked her up in the jail. I requested higher security procedure because I wanted to make an example of incorrect behavior. Again, this isn't the usual disciplinary move you would see at a school, but it's the kind that worked for Noway in his anime game. Back to the story, Akane decided to be more forgiving and set this unknown bully free. However, the bully attacked her and provoked her further. This was where she revealed some layers of the torture mechanism used at the hidden basement. I tried to be gentle and forgiving, but that is over. When I'm done writing this, I go back to the basement in Building B, and I will put her into a straitjacket. I will go back to the basement level 1, and I will request moving her into the basement level 3, the total isolation chamber. And yes, chamber was misspelled because grammar isn't Noway's strong suit, and in case you're not versed with the term, here's a PG-rated breakdown. An isolation chamber is exactly what it sounds like. It's a space specifically designed to cut a person off completely from all human contact, sound, light, and external stimulation. However, this aesthetic doesn't blend well with Noway's game, because it's not the same one he had in mind. You see, isolation chambers have been used historically in prisons and psychiatric institutions as a form of punishment, and it is widely documented to cause serious psychological damage, particularly in young people. We can see that this one fits the description in Akane's story. The fact that Noway thought it was appropriate to include this as a casual gameplay feature, not as something the narrative frames as horrifying, but as a logical next step in the supervisor's discipline toolkit, says a great deal about his relationship with the concept of controlling and punishing young girls. And there's more. Akane mentioned something about electroshock therapy, even describing the intention behind subjecting the student to it. Then another entry she talked about the aftermath of the therapy, and it was pretty positive. After just 3 days, electroshock therapy, she sounded totally different. Her voice got more soft. Her attitude has totally changed. There was no eyes rolling, no suspicious coughing, laughing, or giggling when I said something. She sounded totally serious, and she was calm. She was ready to apology. She was ready to admit that she did do wrong things. Another entry describes covertly following the recently released student through the city, while monitoring her remotely via a GPS tracker that Akane had requested to officials to be surgically implanted in the student's body. The tracker was necessary for Akane to check the student's body temperature for abnormal spikes in order to verify that the behavior modification was genuine rather than performed. These entries are not presented as the journal of a clearly monstrous villain that the game is asking the player to oppose and reject. They are written with a tone of clinical self-reflection, and they literally send a message that total bodily control over another person is a complicated administrative tactic, rather than a violation of basic human rights and dignity. There's no moment in the game where the narrative steps back and frames this as wrong. Nothing explains why there's a basement in school, or why electroshock therapy was even an option in the first place. Nothing about the game remotely leaves a disclaimer for players to not take them seriously. It only asks you to collect these diary pages as story clues and moves on. The world building of the school gives it an authoritarian government look. You can randomly waltz into a barricade made of barbed wires on the premises. Bloody scenes are a central part of the game, as you can work into classrooms or school grounds with red stains and puddles on the floor. In newer updates, there were kisses of death where players would kiss NPCs and they would essentially bleed out for some weird reason. And mind you, the kisses are nothing to write home about. The truth is, some people might not find anything about the features we discussed particularly disturbing. These mentions are far from the main problematic ones that Noway is known for. Horror games exist on the internet, but the thing about Schoolgirl Supervisor Saori Sato is that it is marketed for kids as young as 13 years old. Initially it was rated for 16-year-olds. However, after receiving a strike for the sensitive nature of the game, Noway had to revise the age requirement to 18 years. But as further updates came out, the age limit bounced back to 13 and above. Keep in mind that this game has been published since 2015 on Google Play Store before it was taken down, and 2017 on the App Store, which you'll probably find if you search it up. Many who grew up playing Schoolgirl Supervisor are adults now, but they've come to the realization that the game possesses a lot of problematic themes that shouldn't be exposed to young teens at all. One of these adults who tried to spread awareness on the topic is the YouTuber called Ollie Ravioli. Ollie had hopped on the game when she was only 11 years old, so from July 2024, Ollie began to release a series of videos exposing Schoolgirl Supervisor and its developer for their disturbing qualities. And this publicity prompted the developer Noway to make a handful of changes to his public appearance. First of all, the number of featured channels on his page dropped from 4 to 2. For context, 2 of the initial 4 channels were his own, and that's Kurenai Games. One was a player account, and the last one was assumed to be Noway's alt account. What could have been hidden in these accounts that made him remove them from his collection of featured channels? We'll get into that in a moment. Another revision that Noway made in the wake of Ollie Ravioli's expose was the video count on his channel. Noway deleted some of his early videos from the official Schoolgirl AI Online Simulator YouTube channel, which for the record is the umbrella term for the Schoolgirl Supervisor franchise. The total video count on the channel dropped from over 380 videos to 70 videos, so you can have an idea of the kind of cleansing and hiding that had happened since July 2024. What did he have to hide? Well, the list is pretty long. You see, Noway had created a game filled with a lot of factors that hint at a lesbian fetish and BDSM. BDSM has absolutely no place in a game marketed to 13-year-olds, yet every structural element of Schoolgirl Supervisor points directly at it. And that's not even everything. Apart from the underground basement and the wildlife version, we also have the Schoolgirl AI version, which has an inbuilt club and a love motel. What school would have such installments in its world building? And it's more problematic because this is a game marketed to kids. In most multiplayer games, the default map is the one that loads automatically when you open the game. It is what every single player sees, the moment they log in, before they have chosen anything or gone anywhere. Noway built this map himself, and the map he chose to greet every player with, including every child who downloaded this game, because it looked like a fun anime school experience, includes a fully furnished club and a love hotel. In the club there's a dance stage with a pole and seating around it, plus a bar right beside it. Then the Love Motel comes, with double beds, heart-themed details, and various surfaces for sitting or sleeping. The space also features couple imagery, and is divided in 2 areas for lesbian couples and straight couples. You'd have to have a very wild imagination as a creator to come up with this kind of world building, and it's exactly why this subject matter is a very confusing person to uncover. What goes on in his mind? What is the essence of this kind of game? There isn't much information about the man named Noway. We only know his name today due to the connections built over time to his game. On the App Store, he is listed as Peter Karosik. On Google Play, the same person lists himself as Sergeant Sato. On the Saori Sato Patreon and Discord server, he is listed as Noway. Although the Patreon no longer exists today, probably to cover his tracks. Elsewhere he goes by Kurenai Games, Chibi Kurenai, and Minji Kim. These are 6 distinct names across 2 app stores, a YouTube channel, a Discord server, an Amino community, and social media accounts that have since been deleted or deactivated. Why would he need so many? Well, the simple answer is that he tried to hide his problematic self away from the internet's watchful eyes. That is, until Ollie exposed his masks. As of the moment, it is unclear whether Noway is Russian, German, or Korean if we want to take Minji Kim seriously. But based on voice recordings and archived travel videos, German language software settings visible in gameplay footage, and an address associated with Mannheim, Germany, the community broadly agrees that Noway is most likely a European man, who's almost certainly German. Google Play's own developer policies require accurate legal name and address information in developer accounts. Therefore, it's possible that there might be a hint of truth behind this location. Furthermore, Peter Korosik's YouTube travel channel named Mr. Noway showed him documenting trips to Japan and South Korea in English with a voice and phrasing consistent with a native European speaker who learned English as an additional language. In this description of this channel, we can catch a glimpse of a real-life human feeling behind the owner of the school game. Noway wrote, "Welcome to Mr. Noway's real-life travel channel. Yes, it's me, believe it or not, the one-man army behind the mobile game series of Schoolgirl Supervisor. I want to share on this channel some footages that I have experienced in my life." He listed a tally of the places he had traveled to, most of which are Japan and South Korea, but references to his voice from the videos posted on here places him as a European, so the name Minji Kim can be treated as either a fake name or one adopted for purposes unrelated to his actual identity. Google Play Store's own developer policies require accurate legal name and address information in developer accounts. Having multiple active accounts with different names and information belonging to the same person is a direct violation of that requirement, so it's possible that he's European based on the info provided on the Play Store. Also, we can judge from his accent in his travel videos. During a documented trip to Japan, footage showed him making condescending commentary about Japanese living conditions and residents. While filming Modest Housing, he made all sorts of degrading notes about living in that kind of structure, calling it poor and depressing.
Really poor. Don't even have a corridor. You have just the entrance and then you're inside your living room. Holy cow. That feels really depressed.
Similarly, when it came to observing that Japanese homes commonly use window blinds, he linked it to the country's mortality rate.
Which windows are not totally shielded. Like, each window has blinds, sometimes even opaque windows, then a fence in front of it, lots of trees that covers even more. Man. I mean, I don't think this is the main reason, but holy cow, now I understand why the rate is so high.
As if that wasn't insensitive enough, Noway stooped to an even lower level by filming women walking on the street at night while zooming in on their chests. Under Japan's Image Recording and Distribution Act, enacted in July 2023, filming a person in a manner without their consent carries a penalty of up to 3 years in prison or a fine of roughly $22,000 or £17,500. Uploading and distributing that footage publicly, which Noway did by posting it to YouTube, escalates that penalty to up to 5 years in prison or a fine of roughly $36,000 or 5 million in Japanese yen. And under Article 709 of Japan's Civil Code, every woman he pointed that camera at without consent has the independent right to sue him for damages on top of any criminal prosecution. Noway broke every rule pertaining to privacy in his travel videos, and he published them without so much as a second thought. From the way he sounded like he had zero understanding of Japanese architecture or the basic need for blinds in homes, it's possible he's not familiar with Asian culture as a whole. And his accent really doesn't set him up to be Korean either. Therefore, the argument that he's most likely European, specifically German, still stands. His travel vlogs didn't provide in-depth information about to the creator of Schoolgirl Supervisor, but it did give a hint of his nationality, and maybe even age, which might be late 30s and early 40s. Today, this travel channel is pretty much deserted, with all his videos either private or deleted, and his description has nothing linking him to Schoolgirl Supervisor, but still retains the same travel history as before. YouTuber Ollie's documentary really did a number on him, and it's obvious that Noway was trying to cover his internet tracks, even though it's very futile now that his digital footprints are all over the place. Regardless of the exposition, Noway's track record can be quite confusing for the average internet sleuth to figure out, especially if they're not familiar with the lore and history behind his games. This is why there are Reddit discussions, where community members genuinely try to figure out who's who. Schoolgirl Supervisor Saori Sato is just one among other games created by Noway. The current and perhaps talked about version is the multiplayer Schoolgirl AI version, which is practically the face of Noway's YouTube channel. However, his disturbing game developing history begins with the Schoolgirl Supervisor version we initially talked about, and it got progressively worse than Akane's murder mystery arc. In earlier versions of Schoolgirl Supervisor, specifically the builds known as Wildlife and JP/Yandere Schoolgirls, you could do all sorts of things. You could change your player's outfit and interact with other NPCs and players. And these were the only normal aspects of the game. Your avatar, Saori, was almost high maintenance. Not because she was built to spend money, but because you as the controller had to cater to a lot of demands. This included food and drink supply, money, hygiene, supplements, and even special needs, like diamonds and surprise gifts. You'll find these events at the top right corner of the screen, along with many other features like Saori's possessions, which often included the same things we just mentioned plus cat food and bobby pins. The cat food is for her pet, which was called Pussycat Sora, which for some reason will follow her about even in school, and the bobby pins are not entirely defined, and various confusing gadgets of this nature will be included as the game progresses. There will be a lot of strange items used in this game, items that ordinarily shouldn't and wouldn't be found in a normal school. Speaking of strange items, here comes the wild one. The game has an inbuilt menstrual cycle mechanic. When you surf through the Conditions panel, you will discover a list of time-sensitive necessities that you must meet throughout the course of the game. These include food and toilet for Cat Sora, and a similar list for Saori Sato. You have to monitor her hunger, thirst, thrill, toilet, and feminine hygiene. But there's a disturbing addition here, and that's the slot for menstrual cycle. That is to say, you as a player must manage Saori Sato's period by making sure she has access to tampons. If you fail to do this, the character would visibly bleed from between her legs. This is very strange, because which mature and self-respecting game developer would embed a menstrual bleeding animation in a school game aimed at teenagers? This obviously reflected some weird fetish that Noway had been projecting in the early versions. The bleeding animation lasted several updated versions later, and the fixation behind it became more apparent as time passed. In current versions of the game, one of the player's first tasks is collecting a box of tampons from the home bathroom as part of the Get Ready for School quest, and that quest is still present in the game today. You grab your tampons even before a bottle of water and books because, for some sick reason, it's so important to Noway. And you don't monitor only Saori's menstrual cycle. In later updates, Noway added a scouter gadget worn on the eye. This gadget shows NPC status information, and also has an extension that displays a character's personal data. The way you unlock that extension involves speaking to a mentor named Eiko Masaoka, and providing a logical reason for needing to view other girls' period information. The game's accepted answer is that knowing a girl's period schedule is useful to check their temperature, because girls act moody when they are menstruating. These words would later come out from Saori Sato herself, meaning that you as the player would also state that you need the specs, because girls can be moody, so you need to know her day of the month in order to find more suitable words to handle the situation. Overall, that's such a random and nonsensical justification to add to a game, and also force players to subscribe to it, because after this session, you'd be initiated into the act of checking the period cycle of every random NPC you stumble across. It's very intrinsic for the gameplay, and as we'll discover soon, Noway did have a motivation behind this game feature. It didn't stop with the scouter glasses, however. There's also a quest where Miss Popular Girl, Midori Lin, urgently needs you to retrieve tampons from a blocked hallway bathroom. In the JP/Yandere Schoolgirls version, the character Fukumi requires a box of tampons before she will give the photography club approval the player needs. A math homework assignment contains a bonus question asking what dirty panty means, with the possible answers stating that you would either wash them or wear them. There's obviously a known fetish playing out in the game, not only with periods but also with panties. In the game, a character is shown to be very excited about a big secret she is about to share, and when she finally delivers it, her secret is that she is wearing a pink panty. That absolutely tells you that the creator of the game had lost the plot since the very beginning. In the same Get Ready for School feature, you have to find and assemble 2 pairs of underwear and other unnecessary stuff like vanishing cream. and all the while you have Saori running around the house like a ninja from Naruto. It's pretty much the cliche Nike girl setup, until you realize that the camera can often pan low enough to reveal the color of panties a character is wearing. In some case, you will be instructed to wear a specific set of panties, and would even have a step-by-step guide on how to set it up from your controller. We can see it in this particular case where an instructor named Yaekamon told Saori Sato to wear black panties along with her scouter. Hello Saori, how can I help you? I am ready for my shift. It looked like you have gathered everything what you need for your first shift here at Sayama. Yes, sensei. What you need now is the sign of authority. What do you mean, sensei? Take this key and open your locker next to your desk. You will find a little surprise in there. Put on and come back to me. Furthermore, I'd like to see you wearing it together with the Sailor Summer Midnight black school uniform, and with matching black panties and black lens. That's an oddly specific instruction to program into a game for kids, from the period schedule to this panties fetish. These are messy and questionable details that wouldn't make sense coming from a male game developer. Now, menstrual cycles are normal, but no sensible game would make it a prominent feature for nonsensical reasons. Yes, it's an all-girls school built on an even stranger dominatrix and authoritarian setting, much like the anime prison school, but it doesn't mean that periods, tampons, and panties should be dominating and recurring features throughout. They pop up in quest objectives, mentor instructions, NPC dialogue, math homework, and status monitoring systems, and serve zero narrative purposes whatsoever. All it tells us is that the game is fixated on these things beyond any reasonable design decision, because Noway has an active imagination. These are features he would like to see in a school setting with teenagers. He also eliminated the concept of privacy by making it possible for players to see Saori Sato whenever she used the toilet. He made a panel where Saori Sato was drooling over the leg of a mannequin, saying, "It looks so real and juicy. I cannot stop looking at it." And just when you think it can't get any more disturbing, it does. The game's relationship with underwear goes significantly further than tampon quests. At some point in the game's development history, the school's official flag and logo were changed to a pair of panties. Then later on, the red color was changed to green. It should have been a meaning change, considering that the initial flag, written in black on a white circle against a red background, was a symbol that represents the kanji for rice. At first glance, it looked like the historical flag of Nazi Germany used before and up until the end of the Second World War. This is especially concerning because Noway has an address connected to Mannheim, Germany. Also, it doesn't help that the game features collectible armbands in multiple colors. But at the end of the day, there are no real connectors, and the Nazi underpinnings remain a speculation. The symbol can be taken as just another one of those disturbing attributes you would casually find in the game. It was eventually replaced with the green and white flag with the panty logo, which is usually hoisted alongside two other flags, one with loyalty and loyalty written on it, and another with cat images on them. And for the latter one, you can guess what a cat symbol indicates in this kind of game. These are not symbols that require interpretation. Underwear became the official symbol of the school. Even the students carried backpacks with the panty symbol on them, and it remained the central theme till the latest update. The loyalty point system icon was only updated to match. In the character customization menu, there are options for the panties your character can wear, including one specifically labeled Saori's panty. In the story mode, a quest called the Get Ready for School Replacement Panty quest requires the player to collect both a regular panty from a baby room and a G-string from an office. Neither item is mentioned or used in the story again after collection. They are simply collectible items that exist for no narrative reason. All these indicators reflect the main areas Noway's priorities lie. He didn't create a school where you can bond with other players sometimes and sometimes. He created something that could satisfy some hidden pleasures he felt within. It's possible that the self-gratification stems from his obsession with menstrual cycles and panties, or from a humiliation kink. For instance, like we've already established, the core gameplay of Schoolgirl Supervisor centers on using supervisor tools on other characters. These are the primary implements the game builds around. And in the multiplayer versions, all of these actions can be performed on real players. And here's the messy part. Noway built the punishments with suggestive sound designs. They sound as if they're deriving pleasure from it. The dialogue that accompanies the bondage mechanics is equally specific. When you bind Midori, who is also Saori Sato's love interest, and one of the emotionally central characters of the game, she claimed that she had found it exciting and added that she really liked Saori. Note that in this clip the roles were reversed, because now that she was in the same position, she could understand how wrong it might have felt to Midori, but Noway's programming basically expressed pleasure for the bondage, rather than guilt or feelings of betrayal. So, when you take a closer look at the choice of words and gameplay, it all hints at the game developer having a thing for BDSM. A school supervisor game does not need whips or moaning sound effects. It does not need a love interest who expresses excitement at being tied up. None of those things serve the mystery story that the game presents itself as telling. They serve something else entirely, and the fact that all of them ended up in a game for kids is a bold and deliberate move, not an accident of poor judgment. Noway knew what he was doing and did not care about how it would be perceived. To make matters more obvious, Noway added a body customization system, which provided players with access to progressively larger chest size options over time. Noway promoted this feature in a YouTube video titled, "The new body types in this customization feature are nothing but big busts and small waists, the typical anime girly you would find in fetishization content. Now, having big busts is a natural thing for some ladies. It's biological and isn't shameful at all. However, in this context, it seems like more proof of Noway's likes and hidden desires. There's also a special edition called Schoolgirl Supervisor Saori Sato Special Edition, where you can get 2 skins for the main character. This version exists as an APK file locked behind a paid Patreon access code, and it isn't available on any app store, probably because it could be flagged for violations. Noway tends to hide problematic features about his games and himself whenever he sees fit. Just like the way he didn't upload the special edition for all to download freely, and like the way he shut down his Mr. Noway travel channel when he was called out, he has a habit of latching onto obscurity for his own safety. And it was in the course of doing something similar that he dug an even greater grave himself. Noway owned a Discord server where he could communicate with fans of his game and rub minds with them for future updates. But as innocent as this platform was meant to be, it quickly became one of the primary places on record where his behavior was documented most extensively and most clearly. The things he has said and shared in his own server to his own community constitute some of the most straightforwardly damning evidence about who he is. The content he shared were mostly linked videos of Japanese schoolgirls trying on revealing clothing. These are all fixations on women, which proves the point that he had been projecting his fantasies all along in the Schoolgirl Supervisor game. On another date, he shared screenshots of himself asking ChatGPT about lesbian activities captioned, "Thank God I have this useful tool. How else would I know?" These screenshots were made public through Ollie Ravioli, who had connections to the Discord server back when Noway was active. Him asking about lesbians pretty much confirms his hidden priorities while making the game. It could explain why he allowed intimacy in an all-girls school. Noway claims to personally review every uploaded asset before it goes live in the game, particularly Schoolgirl AI, which was programmed with a user-generated feature. For those who don't understand, here's a quick explanation. Schoolgirl AI allows players to upload their own custom assets. Things like hats, clothing, and skin textures, which other players can then use in the game. And Noway claimed that he personally reviews every single one of these assets before they go live, but this claim might just be false and unlikely, because he doesn't always have a clear-cut explanation for some of the questionable themes he has added to his game. For example, one approved asset was a white hood with circular eye holes cut out of it. If you're having trouble picturing it, think about what a white hood with eye holes looks like historically, and then ask yourself whether it more likely resembles a KKK hood. For those who don't know, this is a hate group from the late 1800s that is notorious for committing violent acts against marginalized communities. Now, why would a developer permit such a symbol in his game? The Nazi reference from the flags were already damning enough, and here he was yet again in another war of symbolism. The truth of the matter is that Noway either. When asked about it, the only excuse he could use in his defense was that it could be a Patrick in a ghost costume hat. At the end of the day, he did nothing about the asset, and players continued using it to portray Triple K members in the game. Another category of approved assets included strange skins, which are essentially designs that go over a character's body. Some of the textures made by some users depict scars. In a game with a predominantly young audience, approving custom skins that display graphic imagery is not a minor oversight. When a concerned player brought this to Noway's attention, he brushed it off, saying that it was harmless Halloween makeup. That was the full extent of his response. It's almost as if he was deliberately toying with the intelligence of everyone on his server, as if he regarded them as kids who would believe every word he said. He didn't leave any further review or even try to remove it from what we've seen so far. Noway is brazen. He doesn't see anything wrong in shaming Japanese architecture or sneakily filming women without their knowledge. He also sees nothing wrong in letting players run wild with his own customization feature in a game marketed for minors. As cowardly as he might seem with his habit of privating and deleting his content, he's still a very proud and dangerous person with no regards for morality. This is a man who stated plainly in his Discord server that he was planning to add explicit content to his remake, noting that the game won't make it to app stores because of how much it would violate platform policies. This proves that he's aware of the lines he's crossing with his games. The annoying part is that Noway is so full of himself that he wouldn't tolerate other people's opinions about him or his games. You see, Noway bans community members for giving him feedback about his game, and at the same time, he doesn't act on harassment reports about members who pose actual safety concerns. Ollie documents that when fans critiqued his remake designs, he snapped at them for lacking creativity, wiped the entire channel history, and announced that he wanted positive energy. In his YouTube comment sections, he insulted the fans of his game, calling them stupid feminists. When a female reviewer removed his game from the Play Store, he reportedly felt more annoyed by the gender of the reviewer than the fact that his game had been called out in the first place. Not caring for the reasons, he proceeded to call Google workers amateurs. After that, he boldly said, "Since this game is banned, I am free to develop anything I ever wanted." And then, he listed out the disturbing updates he would incorporate in his updates without restrictions. His server has written rules prohibiting offensive language, threatening behavior, explicit content, and inappropriate image sharing, yet he's guilty of every single one of them. Unfortunately for him, his complete disregard for his fans' feelings and opinions pushed them to investigate him, and they discovered another shocking detail in the process. If you recall, Noway had 4 featured channels on his main page, and after news of his degeneracy had spread, he downsized them to 2. This is because internet sleuths had made disturbing findings about one of the channels, the one named Kawaii Miku. Within the Schoolgirl Supervisor community, Kawaii Miku was a popular in-game player who appeared to be a young female fan making videos about the game. She had over 6,000 subscribers on her page and posted only Schoolgirl Supervisor content. However, there was reason to believe that Kawaii Miku was never a real separate person, but a fake account operated by Noway himself. The channel was created just a few months after his own, only ever posted content about his games, and the screen recordings in its videos showed the exact same German language software visible in Noway's own footage. Additionally, the unusual word lesbianism, which Noway used repeatedly in his own messages, also appeared in Kawaii Miku's videos, and the video titles and emoji styles matched his channels closely enough to Noway's style. The most damning piece of evidence came from a live stream where both accounts were supposedly playing together in the same server at the same time, except their characters never moved simultaneously. When one moved, the other stood completely still, taking turns, exactly the way one person switching between 2 accounts would behave. And then, during one Kawaii Miku live stream, an unmistakably male burp was caught on the recording. Noway had used the Kawaii Miku persona to promote his games, and also interact with his own fans under a false identity. As Kawaii Miku, he duct-taped other players in the game while saying things like, "That's the way I like it," and made both accounts perform the game's kiss animation together while apparently waiting for other players to join in. It's almost as if he did this to silently enjoy the thrill of his own game. This is in keeping with his reputation for being the internet's best chameleon, one that always tried to fit in and hide away when the going got tough. To make this whole drama even worse, the Kawaii Miku account was also involved in ongoing public drama with a real teenage player named Cookie-chan, with the 2 of them apparently competing for Noway's attention across multiple multiplayer sessions. If Kawaii Miku was Noway the entire time, then he was essentially running a fake teenage girl account to manufacture jealousy between that fake persona and a real teenage girl over himself. And things grew progressively worse as serious allegations became widespread amidst the Kawaii Miku investigations. The first allegation comes from a person named Saori, who submitted her account to a server called the Noway Reports Inbox, which had been created specifically to document concerns about Noway. She wrote, "I had worked on the game with Noway when I was 9, possibly younger. We communicated through Google Hangouts. I reached out first using his development email for Saori Sato. That being said, there is no way chat logs/screenshots will be provided in this report. This is all coming verbally, so you can choose to believe it or not." She described being a 9-year-old with unrestricted internet access, living through a from both parents, undiagnosed with ADHD and autism, with no real support system. Finding Schoolgirl Supervisor gave her an attachment, and reaching out through his development email connected her directly to Noway. Ari describes sharing personal trauma with him, including her early experience with menstruation, and the poor little girl had no idea how inappropriate the connection had been from the start. Not knowing how to communicate properly, I most definitely told Noway, which branched the idea of the character Midori Lin, her significance, her period, something that is very often shown in the game. There is no chat log or screenshot to work with, but the allegation is consistent with the game's content in specific ways. Midori Lin is tied to period mechanics, tampon collection, and bathroom quests throughout the game. Similarly, Akane Maki's stories about enduring a without resolution. Ari's allegations add weight to the question of Noway's thought process at the time of creating the game the way he did. It's strange how he placed a microscope on period cycles and tampons. With her account, it makes a lot of sense, but that's not the end of it. A second allegation came online once again, and this time it involved Cookie-chan, also known as Malibu. The allegation was first publicized on a TikTok account named Saori Sato Unhinged Developer. Cookie-chan was the same one who had been fighting for Noway's affection with Kawaii Miku. Cookie-chan was a young player that built a YouTube channel about the game, and became one of the community's more visible personalities between age 13 and 14. Noway, believed to be in his 30s or 40s, repeatedly reached out to her privately, included her in videos and live streams, and responded positively to fan comments speculating about a romantic connection between the two of them. After returning to the internet as a fresh 18-year-old adult and confirming ownership of her old YouTube channel, Cookie-chan or Malibu shared a portion of what she experienced. In one case, she mentioned how Noway had taken her to a secluded location while streaming. In one of his live streams, I remember he carried me to a bedroom between me and him back in 2020. That's also proof too. She acknowledged having additional evidence that she had since deleted from her Google Photos. But the lack of these photos didn't matter at the end of the day because Noway's sinking reputation gave strength to the allegations. Everyone had witnessed what a he was, and considering his entire game was based on high school girls, it made total sense that he had zero respect for minors. And just like that, Noway became a pariah in the same fandom he created. Schoolgirl Supervisor was the foundation of the problem, and Schoolgirl AI is where things got significantly worse. Multiple people who documented the game reported seeing explicit ads for adult-oriented games running in the ad spaces inside the game. These ads were visible to anyone playing, regardless of age. Every single one of these elements violates Google Play's own written policies. There are rules against fetish content, against misleading age ratings, against developers misrepresenting their identity and account information. These rules exist in writing, and Noway violated the rules in his two most popular games. Did he regret anything? Definitely not. In fact, he's even of the opinion that age restrictions are overrated, because he was able to play Resident Evil as a kid. His logic is, if he could do that, then there shouldn't be age restrictions for his game, where there's a lot of unnecessary Schoolgirl Supervisor can't even hold a candle to a horror game like Resident Evil, which is equipped with a proper story and lore. It's a classic survival horror saga with breathtakingly realistic visuals and gameplay, and you can't see any panels talking about menstrual cycles or panties. Yet Noway was trying to use his access to the game as a child to justify his desire to introduce kids to his game that had evolved through alarming stages of in over a decade. And the crazy part is that he never stopped to reevaluate himself or artistic choices. While all of his disturbing history was accumulating, Noway was claiming to be working on a full remake of Schoolgirl Supervisor. Progress clips from his Kawaii Games TikTok account gave the community a preview of where that remake was heading, and what they showed was disturbing enough that it generated a wave of documented negative reaction, even from his own followers. One clip showed both Midori and the character Misa held captive and depicted in the act of urinating. This footage was shared on his Discord with the message saying, "At everyone, are you all satisfied?" The majority of his community's reactions to that message were negative. The voiced command sequences from the remake, delivered through an AI-generated high-pitched female voice. Noway hasn't been active since 2024, and like we've discussed already, more than half of his videos have been pulled off his channels to hide his traces. His name is notoriously known for his fetishizing game, and even the last few updates have been met with great disappointment from some players online. However, there are others who are stoked regardless. And there have been updates within the community in recent times. A visual novel came out in February of 2026, and it appears that this new installment is keeping the fandom alive, even though it's a fan-made version of the Saori Sato lore. Same goes for the new Discord server called the Sayama Hall, where lovers of the Saori Sato Supervisor game still interact, share fan art, and talk about the lore of the game. It's important to note that this new server isn't anything like the one that was run by Noway. Unlike that one, which is now deleted, there are rules that must be strictly obeyed, and part of those rules is the one applying to common sense, where supporting Noway amounts to consequences. Noway isn't a member of this server, which proves that his period of digital isolation is still in motion. Regardless, the community spaces that have grown in his absence operate differently. There are real moderation standards now, and just like we've seen, rules apply to everyone equally, and supporting Noway is treated as a violation of those rules. His game is still niche and talked about today due to its nostalgia currency, but it doesn't mean that fans of Schoolgirl Supervisor are in support of the deranged developer behind it.